Hey, it's 12 o'clock. We're going to start. I have no idea whether it's going to be the three of us or not, but okay. So I'm recording this on YouTube. So this is going to be the plan, guys. Um, we're going to start with Jason's introductory video, which I haven't really looked at the timing on all of these. In theory, we probably should break this up over multiple sessions, but I'm gonna do this whole thing. I think it's gonna take 2 hours. Um, so we'll play this. This one's only 4 or 5 minutes. These are what he's determining as his essentials. I have not looked at all of these, so we're gonna learn together. A few of these are only like 4 or 5 minutes. So we'll play, we'll pause, maybe we'll take 2 minutes of commentary, depending upon what we have to say. But I want to get through all seven of these. Some of these, like for example, this AI tech stack, I think is where I need to get. So we're going to learn together. I've discovered very quickly that you're not going to do everything in Chat GPT. There's going to be 4 or 5 different modules that you're going to need to use, and I want to start using them like now. So at any rate, so I'm going to play these 8 videos. We'll start with this one. And then we'll just work our way through. We'll pause in between. We'll see what's what. If you can't make it for the whole 2 hours, I am recording this on YouTube. What I'll do, and I should have this done today, is I'm now kind of dusting off the 95.5 link tree, and then I'll put the video recordings in here. So we'll just have them in here, and then I'll just label them today, for example, as the intro / essentials or whatever. So if you can't stick around for the entire 2 hours, just go back to the link tree later today or tomorrow morning, and then I'll have the entire video there, and then you could just go through it. You can go through it at your leisure. And then my thought is we're going to come back here at a minimum every Wednesday. I don't want to go too crazy with this, but I'm thinking every Wednesday, and then we'll go through this. For those of you that are like me and you don't want to wait another week, just reach out to me individually and say, hey, what about this? What about this? And then we'll kind of go through, and then maybe we can do a little fast start program for a few other people. But before we jump in, so we're gonna hit this video first, then we're gonna hit this essentials. I have played around with this a little bit. Let me go back to my profile. These are the sessions that Jason talked about a week ago. These are his like weekly, or excuse me, his monthly, you know, how to do this. And then he's got like a lab section. So it's like the video of him doing his training session, and the lab kind of like is the nuts and bolts behind it. So maybe again, for those of you that are like super anxious on this, like me, because I'm not going to wait a week. I'm probably going to jump on this later today or tomorrow or even Friday, and then I'll go through some of those. So if we have some interest after we're done, or just text me directly and say, hey, Lance, I wouldn't mind jumping on another session tomorrow for 20 minutes and taking a look. We'll do that. And then the same thing with this resources section. Just a lot of stuff in here. And then of course, there's more. So basically, bottom line is I'm going to play 8 videos today. And let me get back to where I was. I think I was here. Yeah, I was here. So I'm going to play these 8 videos. We'll pause in between each one ever so briefly. And then again, if you came in late, I think this is going to take 2 hours. If you can't make the full 2 hours, I understand. We'll have the YouTube video up later today. You can take a look at it. So before I start, anybody have any questions? Okay, I'm going to play this. I'm going to turn my camera off so I'm not distracting, because I'm going to be, doing a few other things on the sidebar here. So, okay, so let me just nuke my camera. If anybody has any challenges or anything like that, I'm not going to be watching who's unmuted. So try not to, but if there's something going on in the middle, just unmute yourself and say, hey, and then we'll pause the video and we'll go from there. Okay, here we go, guys. New to AI. You're not really aware of the technology. Yeah, I'm going to start over again. This video was queued up a little bit later. All right, here we go. Welcome to AI Marketing Essentials. My name is Jason Pantana. I'm your instructor, and I'm so glad you've chosen to take part in this course. If you are somebody who is relatively new to AI, you're not really
really aware of the technology or the terminology, and it's just all kind of fuzzy and new, you are absolutely in the right spot. This is an introduction to AI. This is a primer in terms of how can you leverage AI to scale and multiply your marketing. And the reason you want to take this course is if you're a part of AI Marketing Academy and you want to make sure you capture every single insight, every single strategy, every single tactic without any kind of confusion, then this is the course that gets you up to speed so you can keep up with the pace of AI Marketing Academy in terms of leveraging the opportunity that is existent between AI and marketing. AI and marketing just belong together. And you're going to learn in this course and then beyond this course in the academy how AI can massively multiply your marketing. Now, this course has 7 different kind of short-ish videos. I'll put them up on the screen here for you to see them. The first video we're going to talk about is called Using AI to Multiply Your Marketing. You're going to find that this entire program, not just AI Marketing Essentials, this course, but also all of AI Marketing Academy is really about one thing: multiply your marketing. Why? Because businesses that have success have really good marketing, and AI is the ultimate counterpart to help support and scale your efforts in marketing. This is not about AI for the sake of AI. It's about AI to multiply your marketing. The second video after this will then be generative AI basics, what it is and what it isn't. I'm guessing you've probably already come across information maybe online or you've heard from peers about what AI is and isn't. And I'll tell you what, there's a lot of either wrong information about what AI is and isn't, and or there's a lot of really confusing information about what AI is and isn't. And this video is designed to set you on a firm foundation so that you can accumulate and gather knowledge over time on that firm foundation, really knowing what AI is and isn't. We'll then flow into our third video called the raw materials of modern marketing. Now, we'll unpack what are those raw materials during the course of that video. And you're going to quickly see, wow, when I look at what modern marketing is today, my goodness, AI is the ultimate collaborator to help me multiply my activities in terms of making more marketing, doing more marketing. You'll see how it works when we get to that third video. We'll then go to the fourth video. And the fourth video is called AI Speak, and it's a glossary of important terms. We'll talk about words like prompting, models, generative, different terms that maybe you've heard, maybe you haven't. And we're going to put them in order of how do we stack your knowledge up? Not just a bunch of random terms, but what is the proper order or the taxonomy? There's a big word. What is the proper taxonomy of terms so you can really stack your knowledge and accumulate your knowledge? We'll then move after that fourth video into the fifth one, which is called Mastering the Art of Prompts. In other words, how do you talk to AIs to get them to do the various marketing tasks that are important? And in this section, I'm going to give you the framework, the formula for effective prompting so you can get the right kind of outputs. You can get AI to do for you what you want it to do for you in terms of scaling and multiplying your marketing. Then we move on into our sixth video called Models That Match the Outputs. And you might be thinking by now, like, wow, that sounds a little, I don't know what that means, Jason. That sounds kind of technical. And you're right. By the sixth video, your knowledge, you're not going to be a newbie anymore. You're going to have accumulated and grown your knowledge in terms of understanding what is AI? How do I wield AI for my own purposes? Now, if you're a beginner and AI is totally new to you, you're still in the right spot. But you can see over this outline, your knowledge is going to grow and increase. In that sixth video, you're going to feel like, wow, I think I know what I'm talking about. I get this. It makes a lot of sense. And that will then tee you up perfectly for our seventh and final video of this course, AI Marketing Essentials. That video is called Assembling Your AI Tech Stack. When you leave this program, this course, what you're going to have is a firm foundation and understanding of what AI is, what it isn't, how it can be applied to your marketing, and also recommendations in terms of what are the top tools that I should be utilizing as far as AIs are concerned to help me do that very thing, to multiply my marketing. And then after that, you're going to be set and ready to crush it in AI Marketing Academy. Let's get into the videos.
Okay, so all right. So for those of you that joined a little bit late, so that's the intro. If anybody has any comments, I'll just pause here ever so briefly. I do want to keep them to a minimum, however. Okay, I don't see anybody unmuted. All right, so we're going to go through these. And again, some of these first one's only 4 or 5 minutes, and we'll just keep on going. So here is video number 1.
Let's talk about how to multiply your marketing, leveraging the power of AI. But to really get into that, you have to answer a critical question for yourself. And that question is, how do you feel about AI? Because how you feel about AI is going to influence your use of AI. And I ask this question of a lot of professionals all over the place, and I get a pretty wide range of answers. Oftentimes I'll hear things like, "Ooh, I love it. I'm really excited about it," but they kind of look like they're terrified in some respective way. Sometimes there's information intimidation where they don't know what they don't know. And so they're a little intimidated by it and they don't really use the tools because they're concerned about that. And then sometimes people are like, "I've seen the movies. I'm not going to be any John Connor. I know what happens. I saw The Matrix. I saw Terminator. I saw what happens in the movies." And I'm like, "Hey, I know the science fiction world's really into this stuff, but this isn't a science fiction course. Like, seriously, from a business acumen standpoint, how are you going to use the tools of the day?" And then where I find a lot of people who are struggling, they have thoughts of, well, is AI going to replace me? Is AI going to eliminate the need for me? I hear all this talk about these autonomous agents and AI. And my thought on the matter is that AI is not going to eliminate you, it's going to enhance you. It's going to help multiply and scale your efforts. This entire program is about that very principle. How do you multiply your marketing leveraging the power of AI? Because AI is a force multiplier of you. But think about it like this: what is 0 times a billion? And the answer is 0. What is 0 times a million? The answer is, of course, still 0. What's 0 times 1? The answer is, it's 0. What am I playing at? What I mean is, if you are doing 0 amount of marketing, no amount of AI truly solves that. What AI does is it takes what you're doing and it multiplies it, helps you do more of it, helps you do it faster, helps you do it better. Those are the 3 check boxes of AI. If it's not helping you do more, faster, or better marketing, it isn't the kind of AI we're going to cover in this course. That's the principle at work here. How do you do more, faster, better? AI is a force multiplier of you. But here's what I want you to think about right now. When you look at your current marketing, maybe you're doing social media, maybe it's videos, maybe it's emails, maybe it's geographic farming or postcards or direct mail or something along those lines. What marketing activities are costing you time? You have limited time. I have limited time. Everybody's trying to save time, make time. What's costing you time? And I'm willing to bet it's coming up with ideas. It's planning it out. It's writing. It's graphic design. I'm not really a designer. It's designing stuff for presentations and social media posts. It's editing videos. My goodness, editing videos. We're trying to find somebody to help you edit videos. It's even filming those videos so they look proper. There are so many what we call time sucks related to marketing, yet if you don't market your business, you're going to fall flat. You're not going to reach more customers. Your business is not going to achieve its full potential because you've got to always be marketing. If you aren't marketing, you fall behind in your business, but there's only so much time. And that's where I see AI as the great advantage. I love what Tom Ferry says. Tom says that we are exiting an age of how, and we're entering an era of what and who, meaning it's no longer about how do I run those ads? How do I write that email? How do I do this? How, the word how has been obliterated by AI. And it's now about what do you want done? And who do you want to be in your business? When I think about AI and what we're going to get into in the course of this program here with AI Marketing Academy is how do you massively multiply your content creation? Social media, videos, emails, it could be maybe newsletters that are printed, whatever your marketing mix is, whatever your content creation is, how do you massively multiply it? Do more of it, do it faster, do it better. We're going to talk a lot about online search. How do you get found by customers online and not just on Google? How do you get customers to look you up in ChatGPT? How do you get customers to look you up in other platforms as search is changing? How do you leverage AI to both rank in new ways of search, but also leverage the tools to help you infuse the right keywords and stuff like that for your online search? We'll talk a lot about that. We're going to talk about graphic design. I know you're watching this and you probably aren't a graphic design by trade, a graphic designer by trade. How can AI help you strengthen weaknesses to do more of the work that's necessary to complete your marketing mix? And then last, we'll talk about AI as a massive accelerant of video editing. Video editing is cumbersome and tedious, and my goodness, we weren't made for it. And so if you're struggling with how to edit videos or how to find somebody to help you edit videos, AI is absolutely a solution to help solve that gap. And by the end of this course, we're going to put you in the right direction of understanding what are the tools that can help you. And then we're going to get you moving in that direction to use those tools to massively multiply your marketing. Better and more and faster content creation, online search and ranking and getting found by customers, graphic design enhancements, and then accelerating your video editing so that you can market your face off.
All right. Awesome. Just clicking to see. Okay, I don't see anybody unmuted. I'll pause just for 10 seconds. Okay, very good. All right, let's keep on going. Second video is up.
Legends, myths, and folklores are everywhere when it comes to AI. Let's set the record straight about what AI is and what it isn't. Let's talk about the basics of generative AI. And the most basic level of AI, which stands for artificial intelligence. What is artificial intelligence? Well, it is artificial intelligence. Who's got intelligence? Human beings. You're going to find that AI is a big old copycat. It's all about human mimicry. Artificial intelligence is the notion of being able to train or program a machine to do a process that typically requires or is expected to require human levels of intelligence. When you look at all the innovations and the pioneering happening in the landscape of AI, if you read the news or you see some article about some big new push or big new endeavor of some AI company, you're going to find that these AI companies are typically pushing boundaries in familiar ways. They are mimicking human beings. It could be robotics, it could be machine learning, it could be some different subset of AI, but that's all artificial intelligence. And you're going to find that it's all about human mimicry. And just like human beings, artificial intelligence, it can learn, it can think, it can feel, it can see, it can hear, it can talk. These are all very familiar terms. Now, I use these 6 terms on purpose because you're like, I know, I relate to those. Well, yeah, because think about it. AI is basically ripping you off, ripping me off. It's ripping off human intelligence. There's nothing new under the sun. What's happening in the world of AI is, hey, can we train machines to do what we see around us? And so there's really nothing new. We're looking at human beings as the blueprint, the model to be ripped off and duplicated in the sense of AI. Now, you can have your own worldview about that, but this is all about scaling and multiplying your marketing mix with the power of these tools. And I'm using some of these terms a little bit provocatively, but some of them are a bit more literal, like learn, for instance. Machine learning is a term you've likely heard of before. It is a subtype or a subset of artificial intelligence. It is the ability for the machine, that could be software, robotics, whatever, it can learn. What does it mean to learn? It can take information in and start to build a worldview, start to build a repository of information. It can learn. It can think. Thinking is the outflow of learning. You take stuff in and then you put stuff out. That's what thinking does. It can say, well, this information times this information makes me think this. It can think and it can formulate conclusions and make decisions based upon that, just like a human being. It can say, well, because of this, then this. So there's logic involved. It can feel, but I use the word feel a little bit differently. It's more about sentiment and subtext. There are a lot of AIs, for instance, what they do is they dig into like customer reviews on the internet and they're pouring through the reviews, trying to find words that indicate the sentiment. What is this person really feeling right now? And so AI is quite effective at discerning emotions. If you're chatting with a chatbot kind of AI, it can pick up on your emotions. There are a lot of AIs that are doing like video chats where it can even read facial expressions and hear intonation in your voice, and it can sense the sentiment behind what's going on in those communications. It can feel. I don't know if it feels any of its own emotions. I don't think it does, but it can certainly and is trained to be able to discover and infer your emotions or a customer's emotions. It can see. It uses what's called computer vision to see. The way that AI thinks about images and video is just pixels. Pixels are little dots of color that make up an image or make up a video, and a video is just a motion picture. And so the AI can actually see every single pixel is the data that tells the story of what is that image about? What is that graphic design about? And so it works with images the way that it works with any kind of data, just through the pixels. It can hear through audio processing. In fact, we're going to talk about some AIs that can, if you're making a video and there's a lawnmower in the background, they can hear the lawnmower, they can hear the person talking and separate the two so you don't have that background noise because they can hear the differences. They can hear your voice, and your voice could be loaded into a library and then cloned or synthesized so that you can create an AI that talks and sounds like you do. And then last, of course, AIs can talk. This could be through role play simulations where you can chat and it chats, and literally it's like having a conversation with a person, only it's an AI. It can also talk through the sense of written word. It can help you express yourself through language. Now, this screen here is just to give you the sense of what is artificial intelligence. Well, in the simplest root form of what it is, it's human mimicry. It's looking at what human beings do and how they do it and trying to copycat that. How can I learn things? think, feel, see, hear, talk. That's what the AI is poised to do, leading into a question, what are the big advantages, though, of AI? Because you can have your own opinions about it. That's all weird. That sounds kind of sci-fi and weird. Sure, I don't disagree with you. But this is a course about how to harness AI in terms of applications to scale your marketing. So, what are the biggest advantages of AI? Well, I would tell you that when I look at AI and the tools and what it can do, and then I think about, well, who's been doing that job before? Human beings, me. It's a job that either I have or somebody else has. And now AI can step in and help me take some of those tasks off my shoulders, so to speak, and it can lessen the load I have to carry and or it can help me have a bigger amount of volume and work and output that I'm able to create. So when I think about the biggest advantages of AI, I'm looking at how AI can save you time, lots and lots of time. You can write faster, do more, faster, better. It's a massive time saver. It can reduce your costs. For instance, you could be paying for maybe outsourcing something or a fancy type of software, and maybe you don't need that anymore. Maybe AI can take over some of that work and reduce costs for you. AI can help boost your capacity because it saves you time, it saves you money. It can therefore help you boost your capacity and step into maybe marketing opportunities you've been completely missing. Like, for example, what a lot of real estate agents have figured out is, boy, I could do so many more videos and I could scale so much faster if I had more time. But now I have more time because AI can do so much of the work for you. Do more, do it faster, do it better. And then last, it scales your marketing. All of this stacks. All of your marketing just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger, and it turns you into an AI marketing machine. Now, the term we're really all talking about is not just artificial intelligence. It is generative artificial intelligence. It's all about which this kind of gives it away. The term generative means to generate. In other words, it's AI that generates or makes stuff. And here's a very simple definition. This is the term everybody's buzzing about, generative AI. When you think about this program, really, we're talking mostly about generative AI. I'm not talking about robotics. I'm not talking about neural networks or machine learning. That's all, we don't have to go there. I'm talking about generative AI because it is the subset of AI that is the most useful for a business professional trying to scale and multiply their marketing mix. And we can define it like this. Generative AI is AI that creates new content, such as text, images, sounds, or videos, by analyzing and leveraging or learning patterns from existing data. In other words, it can look at the world around it. You can feed it data. It can be trained and learn things. And then from that, it can create new. It's kind of a blending. Think about it like this. You're a kid in school and they give you a book. They say, go read this book and then write an essay or a book report on the book you just read. So you take the information in and then that information is in the sea of your brain that's filled with other information from other books or other learnings that you've encountered. And then through all that, you put it together in the form of a book report. You output a book report. You just made something new from existing data or you learn patterns. You just behave the same way generative AI behaves, or it's really the flip of that. Because remember, you're the one getting ripped off. Artificial intelligence is all about human simulation, human mimicry. And when you think about it creates new content, I said like text, images, sounds, or video. Really, when you think about it, these are in fact the raw materials of modern marketing. All marketing, could be emails, could be postcards, could be videos, could be ads, is some combination of words, images, sounds, and videos. And oh my goodness, how much could marketing be scaled if you leveraged and harnessed the power of AI?
Okay. Had a couple people join us since we started. So today we're going to run through 5 more videos. They do get a little bit longer from here, and then they're all going to be recorded. Just real quick on the generative AI thing, that's kind of what's got my attention. So for those of you that were intrigued by the generative AI, my first experiment, hopefully today, is going to be taking some existing video, for example, our market forecast video, uploading it into one of these tech decks and have it generate a new video based upon the video that I'm giving it. So hopefully I'll be successful with that. So if that sounds intriguing, that's going to be my first project. Okay, next video, number 3, coming up.
The raw materials of modern marketing. Now, we've talked quite a bit about generative AI and what is it? Generative AI, well, it generates, it makes new content from what? From existing content or ideas or training information or data that it blends together to create something new. I gave you the example of a book report. Generative AI produces Content. Now, earlier on, you heard me say that, well, wait a minute, AI is a force multiplier of you. In other words, that it doesn't do anything without you being the seed or the source of that information. I gave the math example of what's a million times zero. And the answer is, well, it's zero, because if you're doing zero marketing, no amount of AI solves that. But if you are doing marketing, then AI is the great accelerator, the great amplifier of all that activity to help you scale and multiply your marketing. That's the basic premise of this entire program is how can AI help you do more, help you do it faster, help you do it better. Now, in business, there is an existing systematic way of thinking, a framework called an IPO. And an IPO stands for input, process, output. Input, process, output. When you think about AI, it is in and of itself an IPO system. The input, that's you. You plug the idea in, you give it the instruction, you give it the information. The process is then applied to it. That's the AI doing what it does, working its magic, so to speak. And the output is you times AI. It's a multiplier of you. It's a collaborative result that gets you something that you didn't have before, or it scales it, it's more, it's faster, it's better. So just bear this in mind. When it comes to leveraging AI, it's always an IPO system. So sometimes I hear somebody say, I used ChatGPT and I didn't like what it wrote. Well, remember, it takes two to tango. It's an IPO system. The input, if the input is not super strong, super clear, super aligned, that process gets applied. It's still not the right kind of multiplication. And so bear in mind, it's you and AI collaborating together to produce better marketing, faster marketing, more marketing, going back then to, well, what are the raw materials of modern marketing? And again, they are words, images, sounds, and videos. This is a key framework. This is a key understanding. If you ever listen to me talk during AI Marketing Academy, during the rest of this course on stage at some event, you will hear me use this framework over and over and over again because it's so easy to grasp. When you think about what AI does, it's an IPO system, input, process, output. You are the input. It applies the process. Together, you collaborate and you produce a new output. What kind of output? Well, outputs come in the size and shape of words, images, sounds, and videos. Some AIs produce words. They write copy for blogs. They write ad headlines. They write email, newsletter stuff. They write scripts for videos. Some AIs produce images. Those images could be photos. They could be graphic designs. It could be an editing of a photo or a graphic design. AI will output sounds. It could be a voice synthesis. It could be a sound effect. It could be improving the quality or refining an audio that's got some repair needs to it. It could be videos. It could be editing videos. It could be making videos. When you think about AI, see it through the lens of input, process, output. I put instruction in, I get out what? I get an output, words, images, sounds, or videos. And these are the raw materials of modern marketing. Think about your marketing mix. It might be postcards, it might be emails, it might be videos or social media. It could be SEO and writing content for your website that helps you rank in the search results. All of these activities, all of these channels are some combination of words, images, sounds, and videos. And you're like, okay, I think I get it, Jason. AI can amplify that. AI can multiply that. And that's exactly where we're going with this. How do you massively scale your marketing? By using the right AI tools to do more, faster, better words, images, sounds, and videos, the raw materials of modern marketing.
Okay. I don't see anybody unmuted. I'm going to keep on rolling. This one's a little longer, about 20 minutes, 18 minutes.
It's time for a bit of nerd talk as we review the most important terms to know in your glossary of terminology related to AI. Now, there are thousands of different AI terms, probably thousands, could be, I don't know, tens of thousands, I don't know. There's so much terminology that we won't be covering in this program. This is an introduction. I'm not asking you to go get a job working in AI. I'm asking you to use AI to help you with your current job. So we're going to give you the 10 most important terms to build your knowledge. And something to bear in mind as we go through these terms is they stack kind of like bricks stack, so that over each term being reviewed, we're going to build your cumulative knowledge of understanding AI and how it can be applied to your marketing mix, beginning first with the term we've already introduced called generative AI, or Gen AI for short. Our simple definition is it's AI that creates new content like text, images, or audio by analyzing patterns in its training data. So in other words, You put an input in, it's got some context, it looks at the relationship, it sees patterns, and then poof, out comes a new sort of blended result. We already talked about what generative AI is, and that's really the bread and butter term everybody's been talking about. Artificial intelligence is a broader term. Generative AI is a specific subset of artificial intelligence, and it is the kind of AI that generates stuff, which is entirely what we're focused on in this program in AI Marketing Academy. It's all about generative AI. Now, the second term within generative AI is this notion of a model. You might have heard of an AI model. The definition is the computational structure, that you could say the program in AI that generates outputs like OpenAI Dolly for images. Now, you may not have heard of OpenAI Dolly. OpenAI is the owner of ChatGPT. They create several different models. One of their models is called Dolly, and Dolly is an image generation model. Now, think about, we talked about the raw materials of modern marketing. We talked about words, images, sounds, and videos. You're going to also find that these models are tuned, or they work and calibrated for the domain of words, images, sounds, and audio. So they're going to, no, sorry, words, images, sounds, and videos. I messed up there. You're going to find that some AI models produce words, some AI model, in other words, language models, some AI models are image models, some AI models, that is generative AI models, are video models or sound models, or sometimes you're dealing with an AI that's a combination of a few models working together. I'll get to that in a little bit, but I want you to grasp this idea of different models for different outputs, inputs, outputs, different models for different outputs. The model is the brain, if you will. So think about, for instance, like a baby. A human baby is born, and that human baby is born with the potential of massive intelligence. They have a brain, but they don't know anything yet other than pure instinct. They haven't been trained, but life is a great teacher. They'll go through the school system. They'll develop a worldview, and over time, that brain becomes trained, and that is how we are interacting with the world around us, how we make decisions, how we think, and all that kind of stuff. Well, a model is sort of the same. So a model has to be trained, which leads us into the next point. Training is the process of teaching AI patterns and relationships using large data sets like books or images. And so think about, for instance, the company called OpenAI. You might be familiar with OpenAI. They are the owners of the tool, the product called ChatGPT. ChatGPT is not a model. ChatGPT is a product that utilizes different models created by OpenAI. Some of those models are for language, some of those models are for images, and it kind of puts them together, if you will, for interacting with the model. Now, in ChatGPT, I'm getting ahead of myself. The way in which you interact with it is through chat. You chat. So think about like a text message with a person where you type a message and they type a message back. ChatGPT is a lot like that, only instead of talking with the person, you're talking with a generative AI, an AI model. Now, in your regular text conversation, like I could text a funny GIF to my wife if I'm texting with my wife, and I have a funny GIF. You might say a GIF, I say a GIF, whatever. Tomato, tomato. And I can inject or I can introduce different types of media. Could be audio files, could be videos, could be photos, and so forth. Well, in the same kind of capacity, when you're dealing with ChatGPT inside of its chatbot, it can interact with and it can communicate with words and images and different types of media. How's it doing that? Well, it has different models it's working with. It uses its Dolly model to work with images. It uses likely the GPT-4o model, or in some cases the O1 model. They have different models for working with language. Now, we don't have to go that deep yet, but what I want you to grasp is, okay, a model is like a brain, and a brain has to be trained, but it's also important to distinguish it from a brain in recognizing that a model is also tuned or intended for a specific kind of output. Some models are really good at outputting language. Some models, it's images. Some models, it's visuals by and large, like videos and motion and things like that. Different models are calibrated for different kinds of outputs. Now that breaks my illustration of the human brain, because the human brain is what's called multimodal, which is a term on down the list. We're going to get to it. And it can do lots of different things because it's the human brain, and artificial intelligence isn't that far along yet. Notwithstanding, let's go back to our term here called training. It's the process of teaching the AI. So what happens is OpenAI develops a model. Let's say it's a language model, which means it's going to be working with words. Okay, well, it's going to feed it books and documents and internet information and all kinds of data so that it can form a corpus. It's a corpus of data so it can form an understanding and become trained on that information. Now, this is a little bit extra, but think about what ChatGPT is. So GPT is in the name of ChatGPT, which stands for a generative pre-trained transformer. Now, some of this is just a little too much. Transformer is, we don't have to worry about that term. That's like the architecture in which it's a neural network. We're not going to go there. So forget the word transformer. But I do want you to pay attention to the first two words, generative and pre-trained. One of those words is hyphenated. Generative, we already understand what that means. It means to generate, to create. It blends and puts something new. There's nothing new under the sun, but it takes this idea and that idea and that idea and it melds them together. And now we have something new, so to speak. Generates, generative. The next term is pre-trained, meaning when you start chatting with ChatGPT, for instance, really you're chatting with its model, probably GPT-4o. That's the model powering ChatGPT is just the product. Remember that. But you're using its generative pre-trained transformer for Omni. That's its version. So you're going to find that models, AI models, work a lot like software, where you see version 1, version 1.1, version 1.2. Well, now with ChatGPT, you've got ChatGPT 4.0 as in 4 Omni. And then are we going to see 5.0 as in 5 Omni? They're going to keep iterating through new ones. If you're using other types of large language models like ChatGPT, maybe it's Claude, Anthropic Claude is a competitor of ChatGPT. Well, they call theirs Sonnet or Haiku. They have different names. So what I want you to understand right now is with AIs, these generative AI companies, they create models just like apps release new versions. We're going to do a new OS for your Mac, a new iOS update for your iPhone. It's going to keep going to the next version of the software. So models are like the software, and you're going to keep seeing new versions get released incrementally over time. When are they releasing new versions? Well, it's generally when they are training them on new information and they're improving their capacities. So let's go back to our term training. Training is the process of feeding information into a model so it can become trained. So when you're chatting with ChatGPT, it's pre-trained. It's a generative pre-trained transformer. So it already has a huge understanding of the world and information, plus whatever you chat with it about. That's why it knows so much. It's been trained. Now, the next term is inference. This is the process where AI uses its training to produce outputs and predictions from input. Let me unpack that. So I already told you ChatGPT, which is powered by its different models. OpenAI, the company that owns the product, ChatGPT, has different models that are built into your experience of working with ChatGPT. So it could be the 4.0 model, which is for language. That's a language model. It could be the Dolly model as an image model. And so through that, you're talking the different models at different times. I don't want to confuse you on this. Just want you to understand ChatGPT is just a product that is sort of a shell company holding the different models that you're actually interacting with. Now, these models are all pre-trained. They have been trained on a corpus of information and they know lots of stuff. So the term inference is when you're having a chat with ChatGPT, for instance, and you say, I want you to write an article about this topic or that topic. And then you feed it, here's some additional context you should be aware of, and here's what you should know. And you give it your insights, and it blends those insights with everything else it already knows. And that's called making an inference. So part of a generative AI, in fact, it's already somewhat built. Inference is built into the definition of generative AI. It generates. How does it generate? Well, it sort of analyzes patterns and it's training data and it makes associations and it blends it together. Here's what the user said and here's what I already know to be true. And then poof, here's something new. It makes an inference. So you're not going to hear that term a whole lot, but inference is simply the generative AI generating something, and it generates on the basis of how was it trained and what does it know, and then what did the user tell it. Remember, it's an IPO, input, process, output. You're the input. It applies the process, which is all of its cumulative knowledge and understanding of things based upon having been trained to produce then the output. Moving on, there's another term, it's called an LLM or a large language model. These are just terms that stack. This is a specialized AI trained on a massive text data to generate and interpret language. So products like ChatGPT are referred to as large language models. Products like Anthropic Claude, large language model. Products like Google Gemini, large language model. Products like Meta AI or X's Grok are all large language models. What does that mean? It means they are language models What kind of models? They're models that specify and focus on language, and they've been trained on a large data set, ergo large language models. You're going to hear that term a lot. Now, another term you might hear is multimodal. These are AIs that are capable of understanding and generating multiple types of multiple data types like text, images, and audio. So think about, I gave the example of you're texting with a friend, and I was texting with my wife, and we're having a chat, and I say something, and then she types back, and then she gives me a voice note, and then I respond with a quick video of myself, and then she puts a GIF or a GIF, whatever you want to say, to laugh at what I said. We're having a multimodal conversation because we're using multiple forms of media. There was audio, there was text, there was videos, there was images. And so multimodal simply means some AIs are more able to kind of toggle between these different mediums than others are. Google Gemini, so that's their large language model, they pride themselves that they're multimodal, which means their model just has the ability to work with different kinds of media very, very easily. Versus OpenAI is a little bit different because they're not really, ChatGPT might seem multimodal, but what it actually is multiple models working together to create a continuous experience. And so some of those models are more language based, and another model is more image based. And so it's not necessarily as elastic in its range as maybe Gemini is, but it's maybe better at what it does in the particular. So like you have to decide what your cup of tea is. Maybe you find that, well, ChatGPT is better at dealing with a certain kind of media because you've got a model dedicated to that versus another large language model potentially has more multimodal features to it. Multimodal is sort of a $10 word. You might hear it some, you might not, but I want you to be aware of it as it relates to just all the terminology that factors into AI. Next term is fine tuning. This is customizing a pre-trained AI model with specific data to enhance its performance for certain tasks. So maybe you've heard of this tool out there called Jasper, or WriteSonic, or Grammarly. There's all these AIs out there, and Jasper is a pretty good example. Jasper was a copywriting tool for marketers that became popular before ChatGPT did. But the interesting part was it was actually built on top of basically OpenAI. Now, OpenAI is the parent company of ChatGPT. And so OpenAI deploys its models inside of ChatGPT. So GPT-4o, GPT-o1, their reasoning model. We're going to get to that stuff coming up a little bit later on, their Dolly image model. But what was happening is OpenAI also lets people become enterprise customers whereby they can access these large language models through enterprise relationships, through APIs. Now, I'm not asking you to do that, but what I want you to be aware of, and we're going to get to this a little bit more coming up, is not anybody can create a large language model. Not anybody can do it. The amount of effort required to create a large language model, it is resource intensive. It requires money and time and expertise, which is why you're seeing really large companies investing in it. It's why Meta's doing it. It's why X, formerly Twitter, is doing it. It's why Microsoft is pouring money into OpenAI. It's why Google is pouring money into its Gemini that it owns. It's why Amazon is pouring money into Anthropic Claude. It's because it takes lots of money and resources to do this. But you're going to find all these specialized tools like Jasper and WriteSonic and Writer and so forth that exist in the marketplace, where what they really are is they have their own corpus of information. For example, Jasper has marketing best practices. What are the best practices around writing marketing copy for ad headlines, for blogs? And so what it does is it enriches or it fine tunes on top of a base that is OpenAI's models. So, for example, Jasper might have a relationship, an API relationship with OpenAI, where it can work with their large language model, GPT-4o, and then layer on top of that all of its own stuff so that the user's experience is a little bit more specialized. You're going to find lots of fine-tuned AIs that exist out there, and you might be thinking, like, how are they doing this? And the answer is they're building on top of existing large language models. Like 80% of the work's already been done. That's not a real stat. It was just, I'm trying to make the point to you. Another term to be aware of is tokens. You might have heard that term, tokens. You get this many tokens before you use up your messaging limits. A token is simply a segment of text, such as a word or a subword, that AI processes during training or generation. In other words, What's happening is, like, if you type a message into ChatGPT, it will separate all the different parts of your message into tokens. So the word and is a token. The comma that you used is a token. And so you could think of it like this: on average, about 3/4 of a word equals one token, but really the tokens are units of text. The AI breaks it down into units of text so it can organize and understand those units of text. As it relates to you, all that you really need to know is you have messaging limits. And so if you're using a tool like ChatGPT or maybe a tool like Runway, and I know we haven't gotten into the tools yet, but we're going to get into that in the final video lecture, video class. But some tools, they use tokens like you can have this many video outputs, this many image outputs, this many word character count outputs. Every one of the AIs you work with is going to limit how much you can use it in terms of how many outputs you can get from it. Those outputs are measured in the form of tokens. Tokens is just how the AI breaks down the units and the parts of it. So for images, it might be based upon pixels. For words, it's based upon just the divisions, like a comma and a period might be a token, but the word, I don't know, extemporaneous could be a token itself. It's just units of text broken down for the AI so it can understand what it's working with. Those are tokens. And what matters is you have limits. There are limits. Interface is a tool or platform such as ChatGPT or Canva used to interact with the models. So, for example, what is ChatGPT? It is a chatbot. How do you interact with the model, the OpenAI model that powers it? Through chat. I type, it talks, I type, it talks, back and forth. If you're using a tool, for instance, like Adobe Firefly, which is Adobe's image generation tool, how do you communicate with it? Well, I type a prompt or a message to it that tells it what I'm looking for, and then it interprets that message and it gives me an output in the form of an image, usually, or a graphic design. So the interface is the way in which you interact with the AI. Usually, it's through chat. You are mostly talking to AIs through some form of regular communication. And in fact, therein lies some of the magic of this entire experience of generative AI. I mean, think about it. When we first started programming machines, it was ones and zeros. And then we started creating different code languages, Java, HTML, and different codes to be able to communicate and program machines. And now we're down to you can talk to a machine through natural language. You can just talk to it. You can just type to it through natural language, and it can interface with you and perform work for you. That's the magic of AI, and that's the interface. Last term to be aware of is a prompt. The user, we're going to get into prompting in the next session a little bit, but a prompt is where a user provides an input or an instruction that guides the AI to generate a specific response. Remember, this is all about marketing, and we're going to sort of rise all the way up to a prompt, which is, okay, knowing what you know now with all this nerd talk, all these glossary terms, what are you going to tell the AI to do to harness the AI to multiply your marketing?
Okay, wow. Okay, that's a lot. I don't know if you guys are following this or too much, but again, we'll be putting the video up for you guys to go back and watch this. I'm picking up a lot as we go. Keep in mind, I'm learning as well. Okay, I think we've got 3 more videos. If you came in late, I think we got probably at least an hour. So these videos, I think, get progressively longer as we go. So here we go. Next up, this one's about 18 minutes.
This video is all about becoming better at prompting. Now, I used the idea before of an IPO, an input, process, output. What's the input? You're the input. What's the process? It's AI applying its process to your input to create thus the output, that collaborative result of you times the AI. It's a force multiplier of you. But I mentioned, I've talked to lots of people before who said, I used AI to help me write this thing or to do this marketing activity. And you know what? Meh, I didn't really like the output. To which my response is, it takes two to tango. Weak prompts fetch weak results. Diluted prompts, diluted results. But if you learn the art and science of prompting powerfully, you can get unbelievable, some of the best marketing imaginable. More, faster, better. That's our framework, right? And better is the operative word when it comes to prompting. Now, in the last section, the last video, we talked about what is a prompt. A prompt is effectively giving the instructions, but I want you to consider this, that we're moving into a world where, you know what, it's now prompting versus writing, designing, analyzing, coding, editing, searching. Think about this for a moment. Prompting is how you communicate or how you instruct the AI to do the thing you're asking it to do. And so we're now putting ourselves in a world of, well, instead of having to be the copywriter for your website, the blogger, it's more about, well, maybe I'm not the blogger, maybe I'm not the copywriter. But if I can instruct the AI to be my collaborator and help me do that, all of a sudden I am doing something I couldn't do before. We talked about some of the benefits earlier on of AI helping your marketing. It's the obliteration of how. I don't know how to do that. Well, how doesn't matter anymore, because AI not only saves you time, but it boosts your capacity into different realms of marketing you've never stepped into before, because the learning curve has been obliterated. So it's writing, it's designing. Maybe you're not a graphic designer. Well, you're going to come to learn some tools built into Canva and Adobe and other popular design suites that have so much AI built into them. All of a sudden, your ability to execute on different types of graphic design based work, maybe you're not a designer. Maybe it's not your strong suit. But you know what? With AI, you're one of the best designers I've ever met in my life. The skills of analysis, analyzing data, analyzing documents, summarizing. My goodness, AI is ridiculously useful if you can direct it in the right way. This isn't really for you necessarily, but maybe you have a website and you want to create some custom code to make the rotating image hero header section do something special. And you're like, I don't know how to do that. Well, guess what? You can use AI to help you write the code. If it's HTML, Java, whatever it is, it can help you write the code. You can use AI to help you fix spreadsheets and make formulas work the way they're supposed to work. You can use AI to help you with editing videos, editing graphics, editing images, editing documents. AI, my goodness, it's about prompting versus having to be the editor. In terms of research, we'll talk about how AI is useful for searching the web and finding the right information to help you assess your own understanding and understand a specific situation to make the right decisions and to do the right thing in your business. What I'm getting at is, my goodness, you're changing. It's like going from being the salesperson to the manager. It's like you're changing hats. Being a manager is now working through your salespeople versus having been one of the salespeople. Well, in that same kind of sense of that analogy, you're putting on a new hat, the hat of prompting. Your ability to communicate with AIs, to get the AIs to help you do more, faster, better marketing is going to be the determining factor about how effectively are you wielding AI to scale and multiply your marketing. Now, here's a more formal, longer definition of what it means to be prompting. Prompting is the process of providing a generative AI with specific instructions to steer its outputs, analyses, brainstorms, creations, whatever you have it doing. I want you to think for a second about that last part there. So, well, before I get there. So it's the process of providing the AI with those specific instructions. You're telling it what to do. You're being bossy. You're giving it a command, an instruction, and it's thus going to do something based upon the task it's been assigned. That task could be a task of analysis. It could be a brainstorm. You might have asked it to write or create a document of some form. You have to think about AI through the different modalities of what it's like to command an AI. Now, we already talked about the interface. The interface is where you talk to the AI. It's usually a chat, but it's not always a chat. So you have to think through, okay, I am prompting usually in some kind of an interface. What that means is I'm in a chat and I'm telling the AI what I want it to do or something along those lines. It's going to be a familiar interface that's intuitive and clear about how are you supposed to tell the AI what you want it to do. And it's likely some kind of a chat. But the things you could have it do, there are multiple different modalities. I know that's like a $10 million word, modalities, but there are different ways to interact with or different assignments that could be given to an AI. For example, the AI is useful in terms of just conversations and chats. So when you think about prompting, you might be asking the question, is every single thing I type in ChatGPT a prompt? I'm gonna earmark that a prompt is an assignment. A prompt is the giving of a task to the AI. However, you could be interacting with AI more conversationally through chats. You could, though, be prompting AI to do something like perform language translation or to conduct editing or make improvements to some kind of a thing. It could be a video, it could be an image, it could be a document, it could be a piece of text. I want you to edit this for typos and grammar mistakes. I want you to improve this. I want you to make it sound like Seth Godin or whatever you want it to do. It can be useful in terms of giving you counsels. You could set it up with some context and say, give me counsel. Well, that is still an instruction. It is an output. The output, though, is coming in the form of counsel. The output could come in the form of helping you through research, helping you learn a skill or develop a skill, helping you conduct situational analysis. Maybe there's some data you want help analyzing. Help me analyze this. You're still giving it an instruction. So I still want you to look through the lens of input output. I am the input. I provide a prompt. That is where it understands the output I want. It applies its process and it gives me an output. It's so simple. Input, output. You're the input. You give it an instruction. It gives you the output. What kinds of outputs? All these. There's lots of different kinds of outputs. It's based upon whatever you want it to do for you. Remember, this is artificial intelligence. It is the simulation of human intelligence required processes by machines. And so when you think about all the marketing that could be done and all the different applications of it, it's pretty broad. It's pretty dynamic. It's unbelievable. Summarization. Hey, take this 100-page PDF and summarize it into a paragraph. It's incredibly useful. It's a time saver in that way. Your prompts could instruct the AI to output a solution to a problem you're facing or some kind of a math problem or whatever it is. It could be answering questions you might have based upon its pre-trained data. It could be around ideation or brainstorming. Help me come up with some ideas for this or that. In fact, I would say this one right here is what a lot of people are already using AI for. But let this idea, these 12 ideas, these 12 modalities, if you're only using AI to brainstorm stuff, look at all the stuff you could be doing that you aren't necessarily using it for, that it has the potential to help you scale your efforts. It's a force multiplier of you. And then last, and this is the big one, creation or generation. Most of the focus of AI Marketing Academy and this program is how do you multiply that marketing? So how do you generate more content, write more blogs, better ones, faster, more videos, more scripts, more of the marketing materials, those raw materials, words, images, sounds, and videos. How do we scale that by a factor of 10, 20, 30, 40, 100, whatever? It's all about instructing the AI to give you the outputs. So before I move on, inputs, outputs. You're the input. You are inputting through the lens of a prompt. A prompt is a term I've earmarked for the specific instruction, the task you are assigning to the AI. So it understands, oh, he's giving me a job to do right now. And then it conducts that job based upon how clear your prompt was. Weak prompts get weak results. Strong prompts get strong results. Let's talk about how to prompt more effectively with the 5-part formula. There are 5 parts to an effective prompt, beginning first with the persona. Now, before I get into this, I'm piggybacking off of this last one. Creation, content creation, generation of content. So on like coming up with video scripts, coming up with email copy, writing blogs. I want you to think about marketing applications. How are you going to use AI to produce marketing outputs? Words, images, sounds, and videos. And with that in mind, we then go into the prompting formula, which is first the persona, where you declare who's speaking. Now, let's make this easy. Let's imagine you're using a tool like ChatGPT. And ChatGPT is just a chatbot. You type a message, it responds. You type another message, it responds. I want you to imagine all of these 5 parts together as one single message. One prompt, one message. Now, just to be clear on terminology, I don't want to conflate terminology. You can use ChatGPT just conversationally, recreationally, and just have chats back and forth with it where there's not really a specific outcome in mind. I am looking at prompting through the lens of I have a task in mind. It is a marketing application, so I want it to write a script or write a white paper or do some kind of a marketing task. So bear that in mind, that these prompting variables are for generating some kind of marketing piece of collateral, okay? So the first part is the persona, where you tell the AI who is speaking. Act as, and this is just an example, and these are super short little statements. Your statements could be shorter or longer. It's your prerogative. But the first part of my message, that is my prompt. I'm using those terms together right now. The prompt is in a message. I'll say that again. The prompt, which is all of this, is in a message, one message. So the first sentence of that message is act as a seasoned real estate agent for home sellers. I'm telling it who it is to become in the assignment I am proceeding to give it. The objective is where you define what it's going to do. What's the job you're assigning it to do? Compose a video script on tips to improve curb appeal. Okay, so it starts to understand that. The next sentence in my prompt is that the video is for homeowners planning to sell to increase value. Now, these two words are backwards, excuse me. This should say context, and the next one should say format. They're backwards. Context, where you provide a detailed backstory. So these are backwards. I'm so sorry. Context is where you provide a detailed backstory. This video is for homeowners planning to sell to increase value. So far, the AI understands, okay, I'm supposed to act like I'm a seasoned real estate agent, specifically who's here for home sellers, okay? And the objective is I'm going to compose a video script on tips to improve curb appeal for those home sellers. The context, remember that word context, the backstory is this video is for homeowners planning to sell to increase value. Now, think about this. The context helps give a richer understanding to the AI of how it should proceed to complete the objective. It understands some of the backstory. Then you move into the fourth sentence of your prompt, which is it says context. It's supposed to say format. So format and context are backwards. The format is where you specify the desired output. So I already told it what it's going to do. Now I'm going to tell it what is the actual media type. So I said, optimize script for an Instagram reel. This is kind of a tight sentence because the words wouldn't fit in the box. But what I'm saying is you're going to optimize the video script. It's already been given an objective. The objective is it's going to write a video script. Now it understands, oh, it's an Instagram reel video script. So optimize the script for an Instagram reel with a strong opening hook. You could even be more robust in this sentence. You could say, for instance, the video script you're writing is for an Instagram reel. Use your understanding of what makes for a successful Instagram reel and apply that to the way you structure the script. Ensure that it begins with a strong opening hook. Now, this is just some basic understanding of what makes Instagram reels work well. So I'm going to have it help me do that well. Now, maybe you're watching this and you're like, Jason, I am not an Instagram expert, but we've obliterated the learning curve of how. It's been obliterated. So you can simply say to the AI, you are an expert at crafting scripts for Instagram reels. And it's like, you know what? I am, because it's pre-trained on a corpus of information that includes best practices around Instagram. And then so let's optimize the script for an Instagram reel with a strong opening hook, spilling into our final sentence where you define the style that it is to write, where you refine its manner of speech. So I wrote down, write in the second person perspective or point of view, write conversationally and without fluff. Now, you could use a longer sentence. You could be more descriptive. You could be less descriptive, but you're telling it how it's going to write. There's a quote from Tim Ferriss who said that life rewards the specific ask and punishes the vague request. If you prompt ambiguously or there's just gaping holes of logic in your prompt, the AI is going to fill in on its own. That's just its nature because it's got to produce the output, and it's going to produce that output based upon either its pre-trained information combined with your input, that is your prompt. Remember that term I talked about in the last video is called an inference. The AI is going to make an inference. And whatever information you've left out, it's going to make an inference based upon how it's been trained. Oftentimes you'll hear people who use AI say, it sounds like it was written by AI. Well, it sounds like the prompt wasn't clear to help the model move beyond writing in that capacity because you didn't give it enough information to go off of. Now, if you find yourself in a position where you're like, well, I think I gave it everything it could possibly want to know, but you're not entirely sure, you might consider this. This is a clarity check. So at the end of your message, think about it like this. We're going to go through sentence 1, sentence 2, sentence 3, sentence 4, sentence 5, and then your same message for this prompt could include this. Hey, before starting, ask me any questions to clarify details, background, goals, or other relevant aspects to ensure alignment. In other words, before you complete the task, I want you to tell me what you're going to fill in with on your own based upon my lack of specificity. Because again, think about it like this. Imagine tomorrow's your big day. You're getting married. And you say to your, I don't know, your best man, hey, your job is to create the playlist for the wedding reception, something people can dance to. And then everybody shows up to the reception the next day, and your best man's organized the playlist. And you start listening to the tunes, and you're like, dude, this is a polka playlist. And your best man's like, exactly, something people can dance to. Well, your buddy, your best man made an inference based upon whatever his mental model was of the music landscape, and he applied that to your playlist. And in your mind, it might have been perfectly clear, something people could dance to. And you had your idea, your hallucinations of what that would entail, but your best man came from someplace entirely different. It's all about being more specific in your prompts. And if you think you haven't been specific enough, before you give the task, ask the question. If it still produces an output that you don't like, push back and say, hey, I noticed you said this, this, and this, or you wrote like this. What in my message or what wasn't in my message that led you down that path? Remember, because it's an AI, it is conversational, and you can work with the AI to make an iterative improvement to whatever output you're creating. And when I say outputs, I mean maybe it's a blog post, maybe it's a video script. What is it you're having the AI do to scale and multiply your marketing?
Okay, we're getting close. So for those of you that are sticking around, great. We have 2 more videos left, and then we'll do maybe a quick debrief, and we'll go from there. Okay, so let's cue this up. This next one is a little less than 10 minutes. And let's go.
In an earlier video, we talked about and defined the term model. What is an AI model? And we use the analogy that a model is kind of like a baby's brain. When a baby is born, their brain, they have the potential to learn and to become massively intelligent. However, when a baby's born, they really don't know anything. But through experience and through education and life, their intelligence is revealed over time. And we talked about models can be trained. We talked about how some models are pre-trained. When you're interfacing with ChatGPT, for instance, you're dealing with a pre-trained generative AI model. But then I made a comment that we're going to build upon where I said that here's where that analogy of the human brain breaks down when it comes to dealing with AI models, and that models are intended or tuned, or you could say calibrated for specific kinds of outputs. Now, it's always about inputs, outputs. You are always the input. That part doesn't change. AI enhances you, doesn't replace you. You're always the input, and then you prompt it, you instruct it, and it produces an output, but there are different kinds of outputs. Some outputs or some models are better tuned for outputs that are words, some for images, some for sounds, some for videos. Some are multimodal, so they do kind of a combination, but that's not necessarily the norm, so to speak, but they're tuned for different outputs. In fact, a better example or analogy might be cars. Some cars are designed for speed. Some cars are designed for off-roading. Some cars are designed for hauling a bunch of people around. Different purposes, different outputs, you could say, and the vehicles are manufactured or created for those different use cases. Well, AI models are in the same way, they are earmarked for different types of use cases. Now, once again, these are the raw materials of modern marketing: words, images, sounds, and videos. And this provides for us the framework we're going to use in the upcoming last video of this course to help you create sort of a lattice board on which to organize all of your different AI tools. The last video that we haven't gotten to yet, we're going to get there. It's about setting up and assembling your AI tech stack. And that tech stack is going to be through the lens of what are your AI tools for dealing with words, for dealing with images, for dealing with sounds or audio, for dealing with videos, so that you can have all the tools to support the AI tools to support your marketing activities, to do more, to do faster, to do better marketing. This is all about marketing. Now, as we talk about models, I want to go one layer deeper because you may be feeling overwhelmed by how much AI is already out there. AI is bursting at the seams. Every company is talking about their new AI tool for doing X, Y, or Z. AI is literally everywhere. And it reminds me a lot of when the app stores first launched for your smartphones. And there was an app for literally everything. And in fact, I believe that experience provides a very good mental model of comparison to help you navigate this crazy innovative time of AI so you don't feel overwhelmed by it. And I call it iPhones versus apps. Now, think about this. Apps like Uber, apps like DoorDash, apps like Pinterest, apps like, I don't know, Spotify would never have existed if it wasn't for the innovation of the iPhone. If you were to go double deep on an analogy, think about like a chessboard. The iPhone became the chessboard on which the game got played. And so the apps are like the knights and the rooks and the bishops, and they're the pieces on the board. But if they didn't have the board, you couldn't play the game. The iPhone created an infrastructure for massive innovation. Now, there are only so many smartphone providers. Let that one sink in for a minute. Why? Well, there's Samsung, there's Google and Android, there's Microsoft, there's Apple, of course. Why? There's only so many smartphone providers because making smartphones is incredibly expensive and it's not something anybody can do. I'm not going to wake up tomorrow and think, I'm going to start making my own smartphone. I'm never going to raise enough capital and I'm never going to compete with what it takes to compete at that level. So there are iPhones and then there are apps. But think about apps. When the App Store first launched, it was accessible for all these entrepreneurs to think, I have an idea for that. I have an app for that. And then as a user of these apps, I remember, and I bet you remember too, feeling overwhelmed where you're like, there's a new app for everything. I just got an app for doing this thing. And now somebody's saying that app over there is better. And I just wanted it all to settle down. There was this massive, prolific innovation that occurred with the App Store. Why? Because the iPhone created the chessboard. The iPhone created the opportunity for all of this to kind of happen. Well, in the same way, AI works like that. There are iPhones and there are apps. In other words, there are devices or foundational AIs, and then there are specialty tools that are built on top of the foundational AIs, if you will. I already said this before, I'm going to say it again. Large language models, when we introduce that term, not everybody can make a large language model. There's a reason why it's Meta. There's a reason why it's OpenAI, which is bankrolled by Microsoft. There's a reason why the biggest players are playing in that space. And the answer is because it's an effort, it's an undertaking to train a large language model. So you're going to find whether it's image models, video models, sound models, words models. I'm just trying to keep us in our framework of words, images, sounds, and videos, the outputs of AIs. You're going to find that in each of those different, and this is critical, in each of those different segments, words, images, sounds, and videos, you're going to find dominant players. You're going to find the devices versus the apps. Where am I going with this? Well, you're going to find that there are, in the image space, for instance, you're going to find major players like Adobe. Adobe's made their own model that generates images. You're going to find tools like Runway. They've made their own model for generating images. You're going to find Dolly by OpenAI made its own model for generating images. But if you go into your app store, you might find a gazillion different people who say they do that. But the truth is, they're not really doing it. They're doing it by proxy of the main players. So here's the analogy I want you to grasp as you filter through knowing the good from the bad. Which one should I pick for my tech stack and which ones are just making like kind of like extra noise in the environment? And I'm not saying they aren't good. I'm just saying there's going to be a lot of them. It's going to be the idea of the flagship devices versus the specialty tools. Now, I used this example earlier. I talked about the difference between ChatGPT and Jasper. And I told you that Jasper is a specialty trained or a fine-tuned AI. It is a large language model, but it's built on top of, for instance, mostly OpenAI or GPT-4o. And so the way that it works is OpenAI allows other AI developers and creators to use APIs to connect to their large language models so they're not starting from zero or scratch. And then they can layer their own specialty fine-tuned training on top of it and create a little bit more of a nuanced or calibrated kind of turbocharged version of that engine, if you will. Now, Jasper, I'm not saying isn't as good. In fact, some people prefer it because of that specialty training. And in the same way, I could look at my iPhone and say, well, my iPhone came with a calendar app, but there are other apps, third-party apps in the App Store that might be better calendars. So I'm not saying that the way you discern between which AI tools you make a part of your tech stack is it the original or is it a device or is it an app? That's not necessarily what I'm saying, but I want you to not be fooled or hoodwinked or have the wool pulled over your eyes because you're confused by what's out there. You're going to find AIs galore. For example, think about a tool like Canva. We're going to get into this in the next video. Canva is a very well recognized, respected design suite that has lots of AI functionality in it. It is not actually an AI tool. It's actually using AI tools to provide specific features for their users within the platform. And most of those tools are actually powered by Runway ML. Runway is the real, if you will, the iPhone, if you will. It's the device that makes the app on Canva possible. So one filter or mental model to look at the landscape of AI through is this an iPhone or an app? Because that is happening right beneath your feet right now. That is the environment of AI. Is it a model that required copious amounts of development and it's made by a big player? Or is it like an app that some specialty tool has sort of API by proxy used the existing model that was made by the big player and they're just making it do something a little bit different or special? That's going to help you massively understanding I should put this on this side or that side of the table when it comes to filtering all the very, very many AI tools that exist as we get into building out your AI tech stack. The real question is, how confident are you in AI tools in discerning which ones make the most sense for your tech stack?
Okay. I don't know about you guys, but that like hit like really home for me. A lot going on there. I got a couple of things in chat. Let's see what's going on in the chat here real quick. Chris, I'd like to clarity. Point I've struggled with detailed prompts. Yep. That's and Wilson 5-step prompts. Yep. Okay, the whole prompting thing is huge. I think this is video 6. I think we're all probably going to need to go back and watch again. I'll just give you a silly example before we play the last video. I want to do some video creation. I want to upload my old videos and get a new video. And I just discovered last night, by the way, we're learning on this together. Well, you can't do that in ChatGPT. And you can't do that in Gronk. They don't do video creation. So as Jason just said, there's a separate app for that. And I'm curious, I haven't looked at this next video, but there's a program called, I guess an app, if you will, that called Pictory, Pictory. Apparently it does what I want it to do. So it's one of those AI tools. I'm curious if Jason's going to recommend that one because frankly, I want to play with that tonight. So I think this next video is the tech stack section, which is all the other little programs we got to use to make this stuff work. So let's cue this one up. This is the last one. This video is going to be, oh crap, this one's 40 minutes long. So yeah, we're going to push up a little bit past 2 o'clock. So again, if you weren't anticipating on spending this much time, I'll have the YouTube video posted close to the end of the day today. And then I think, frankly, at a minimum, these last 2 videos, we're probably all going to need to go back and watch again. So here's the last one, 40 minutes long, and go.
Here we are at the last and final video of the course, Assembling Your AI Tech Stack. Now, the goal of this video is to give you a wide exposure of different AI tools for different purposes to multiply your marketing so that you can make your selections about what AIs will be a part of your tech stack. Something to be aware of, though, is that AI is probably the buzzword of the century. Everybody's talking about it. Tools are calling themselves AI when maybe they aren't really AI. Everybody's saying, oh, we've got this new AI. And it can feel massively overwhelming to try to keep pace with all the rapid change of AI. Today, I'm going to give you a framework to help filter through your choices and understand, oh, these are AIs that perform specific functions so you can make informed decisions about which AI tools you like, which ones you don't like for performing different AI marketing-based applications. Now, I want you to imagine this. Picture that you're at the Home Depot or Lowe's or your favorite hardware store, and you walk to the tools section and you are immediately seeing thousands of tools and you're quickly overwhelmed by how many tools there are. But then you think, oh, wait a minute, I have a framework for understanding tools. I know that those over there are all hammers, and those are screwdrivers, and those are wrenches, and those are saws. And you can see that there may be lots of wrenches, lots of screwdrivers, lots of hammers, but you're like, those are hammers, and those are screwdrivers, and those are wrenches. I'm going to give you a similar framework today to understand that though there are thousands, if not, I don't know, tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands, there's lots and lots of AI tools, but I'm going to give you a filter to understand which tools belong in which category in terms of the function they perform. That's a wrench, and I use it for jobs like this. That's a screwdriver, and I use it for jobs like that. And you're going to have that framework, that paradigm to help you understand how to navigate these tools as they keep evolving and changing and new ones get added. I don't want you to feel overwhelmed by it. Now, the framework is what we introduced a few videos ago, which is this notion of words, images, sounds, and videos. AI produces outputs. We said it's an input, process, output, IPO system. And the outputs come in the size, shape, and form of words, images, sounds, and videos. This is our paradigm. There will be AI tools and solutions that I present to you today for intelligent words, for intelligent images, for intelligent sounds, for intelligent videos, kind of like, I don't know, hammers, wrenches, screwdrivers, and saws. Think of those as our categories or filters for understanding these tools. In terms of the words section, intelligent words, these are AI tools for composing, so writing, editing, understanding and researching words. We'll even get into generative search, which is going to be, the next iteration or evolution of what Google search has been. Then we'll switch into tools that are designed for intelligent images. These are AIs that generate a range of images from graphic designs to detailed realistic photos. We'll get into, again, graphic design aspects of this. We'll get into presentations. We'll get into social media posts and things of that effect, and just creating actual photos and images or artwork. We'll get into intelligent sounds, AI tools that create, modify, or enhance audio like music, sound effects, or spoken voices. We'll talk the most about the spoken voice aspect, not just in terms of generatively creating spoken voices, but also editing or improving the quality of maybe your microphone recordings on your videos, things of that effect. And then last, we'll talk about AI solutions for intelligent videos. These are AIs that edit or produce videos from text prompts or other media into new videos. So really the focus here is going to be on generatively creating videos, but also enhancing or improving or modifying existing videos to massively streamline the process of editing videos. It's incredibly cumbersome. Now, our first section today is intelligent words. And you can see I've got some icons of different apps and tools, or AIs, I should say, that we're going to cover within this section. We talked about composing, editing, understanding, and researching words. And we'll talk first about the aspects of, writing and composition, making words, which is what we're most familiar with. Now, this term's already been defined, but here it is again. It's a large language model. This is a keystone term in AI worlds, which is a specialized AI trained on vast text data. So it's a language model, vast text data to generate, to interpret, to understand language with context and precision. Large language models, guess what they're really good at working with? Language, you guessed it, they're good at working with text. Now you're gonna find, okay, so Jason, does that mean that some models are, you could say, tuned for language, and some models are tuned for visuals, and some models are tuned for audio? Yeah, you could. Hence why I've got this organized in these 4 categories: words, images, sounds, and videos. Now, you're going to find that some AIs are sort of Swiss Army knife kinds of tools where they do a little bit of this and a little bit of that, and that's all fine and well. You may find that in some cases, there's a dilution where sometimes a tool that's a jack of all trades kind of tool maybe isn't as good as a specialized tool, or sometimes it is. This is all about today giving you exposure to what are the AI solutions that exist to satisfy your needs for words, images, sounds, and videos, your raw materials of modern marketing, so that you can get on your merry way and you can multiply and scale your activities, your marketing, and crush it. All right, so large language models. Our biggies in the marketplace as of today are ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, Grok, and Meta AI. Now, we've already introduced these earlier on, but ChatGPT is sort of the flagship. ChatGPT is developed by a company called OpenAI. You've probably heard about it. It is sort of the OG, if you will, in terms of these chat bots, and it is a large language model. Claude is a competitor, large language model. Gemini, another competitor. Grok, another competitor. And then Meta AI, another competitor. Now, I'm going to give you just my quick little perspective on these at the time of this filming. I use ChatGPT 80% of the time. I use Claude probably 20% of the time. I use Gemini rarely, and I'll get into why that is. I use Grok. Relatively, I'm recently starting to use Grok. Now, Grok is the X AI, formerly Twitter, developed by Elon Musk. It's their AI. They've only recently released a standalone app that can even be downloaded on your device. And so it's always been accessed within your Twitter or X feed for premium users. The one interesting note about Grok that's worthy of mention is that it is the only AI currently, at the time I'm filming this, that's connected to a real-time social media feed. And that feed is X, Twitter, where news is breaking and so forth. You're going to find that ChatGPT has the ability to search the web through an extension of Bing. Claude cannot search the web at the time of this filming. Gemini is Google's, so it's going to be connected to Google. So it's got great search. But the power of Grok is that it's not a search engine, it's a social network that it's connected to. Now, yes, it does have its own web search functionality, but if you're doing brainstorming on, hey, what are some hot emerging topics in social media that I could really get in on? In terms of coming up with video ideas and so forth, Grok could be a really great place to go looking for that kind of inspiration. Why? Because it is the only large language model connected to a real-time social media feed. Thus, it can pull in information and insights that are much more timely. Meta AI, which is Facebook and Instagram, is built into their applications, but it's not actually connected to their social media feeds, at least not yet. If and when it does become connected, that will make it a bit more of a serious contender, in my opinion. So my advice here is pick your favorites. Mess with some of these, get the free accounts, and then decide if you think it's worthy of paying for them. I can tell you that I pay for the ChatGPT Plus, which is at the time of this filming about $20 a month. I also pay for Claude, their pro account, which is like $18 a month. I don't pay for Gemini. I do pay for Premium X, which is $3 a month, so I get Grok. And then Meta AI is also just part of my membership of being in Facebook and Instagram, stuff like that. I like ChatGPT because it's the most functional for all my different uses, but I would encourage you to make your selections. This is about assembling your AI tech stack, and you'll find that for the most part, they all have very similar features. They have pretty par for the course functionality in terms of their reasoning skills, their writing skills, but you'll find your favorites. The way to get started is to create accounts with all of them and then test them. Now, I should mention to you that ChatGPT is owned by OpenAI and that the major investor in OpenAI is Microsoft. Microsoft, we don't know for sure, but we think they've got about an 13 billion at the time I'm filming this capital investment in OpenAI. So they got a pretty big stake, somewhere in the 2/3 range of stake, I would guess. Claude is by Anthropic, and their major investor, their biggest investor, is Amazon. Amazon, I think, is somewhere in the 60 percentile range of stake, something like that. They've got about $8 billion at the time of filming in here. So I want you to be aware of the fact that, like I told you before, large language models are a large endeavor to create. It takes massive capital funding and resources, which is why you see the big names, Microsoft, and you see Amazon involved at this level. Now, Gemini is owned by Google. It is a Google product. And so Google's money is in Gemini. Ironically, Google's also got like a $2 or $3 billion capital investment in Anthropic. So they're making money there too. They got some stake there. Grok is entirely owned by XAI, which is Elon Musk, and Meta is entirely owned, well, mostly owned by Meta, which is Facebook and Instagram. So just so you know who's got their fingers in it, you see the big names. There's one big name missing from the table, which I would say is really Apple, is the one that comes to mind. There are other big names, but they're involved in different ways. So pick your favorite large language model. When it comes to writing, you're going to probably find that one of these is going to be your preferred method of writing captions, writing emails, doing the marketing. And as you get into the different lectures and labs that are a part of AI Marketing Academy, once again, you're going to find that I'm talking a lot about using these specific tools, and you're going to want to be versed and familiar with your favorite of these tools for writing copy, understanding text, and so forth. Now, I showed you a slide earlier. I'm going to show it again, and it talked about we said the big word was modalities, or different ways that an individual might utilize a large language model. Because again, if you think about a tool like ChatGPT, really all it is a chatbot where you type, it types, you type, it types. It's like having a text message with somebody, only you're texting back and forth with a generative AI. And if you think about a text message, like maybe you're texting your buddy, and you have that whole thread. The thread is the entire dialogue of all your back and forth correspondence. Well, chats inside of a ChatGPT or a Claude or a Gemini, they work like that, where there's context being understood in that thread, in that specific chat. So it's good for conversation and chats. Another modality is language translation. That may be it's remarkable as a large language model. It is specially designed to understand context, which makes it a remarkable tool for accurate language translation because it gets it It gets the context, editing and improving. So maybe you've got like a document or you want to improve some language. You want to make this tighter, more efficient, better worded, wordsmith it, so to speak. It's fantastic for that. Maybe check it for grammar or spelling mistakes. Giving counsel. You can use ChatGPT or Claude to give you some feedback. Hey, here's this situation. Here's what's going on. What would you do? Or what do you think's reasonable? Now, I'm not asking you or encouraging you to make ChatGPT your therapist or something like that. But I am suggesting to you that it is connected to a vast amount of data. And so when you're looking to make data-informed decisions, you can consider the possibility that, man, there could be a wide exposure of information that could be useful in terms of giving me the data points I need to make better choices. So it can be useful in terms of giving counsel, research, and but just don't go overboard on that. Don't get weird about it. Research and discovery, it's incredibly useful for that. We'll get into that in a little bit. Learning and skill development, that's another modality. You can just learn, ask it questions. How do I do this? What about this? How do I do that? And it can give you the instructions. Analysis and insights, it can look at data and situations and then form perspectives and make observations. Summarization, a lot of people do this, where they've got like a giant PDF. These large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, Gemini, they allow you to attach files. So it could be videos, documents, PDFs, things of that effect. And you could give it, for example, maybe it's like 100-page. I'm not encouraging you to use legal advice from this, but I'm just giving you an example hypothetically. You get like a 100-page contract you don't have time to read, and you want to just summarize some key points. Now, are you putting yourself at the mercy of that AI not having screwed it up? Yeah, you are. So this is not me making a legal recommendation. However, it's really useful for summarization, cliff notes. If it's a long article and you don't want to read the whole thing, and you want the key takeaways, it's really useful for summarization, for helping you solve problems, for answering questions. A lot of folks use it for ideation and brainstorming. That's a really, really big use case, is coming up with ideas, which is why I talked here about Grok is unique in that respect. If you're specifically looking to create ideas around, hey, what are some hot topics that are buzzing? Because you could literally get on Grok and say, hey, what are some recent tweets in Chicago, Illinois related to housing that are just emerging? And it can actually dig into real-time recent tweets, and you can get ahead of the pulse in terms of emerging topics. So in general, these large language models are very useful for ideation and brainstorms. However, if you want to be understanding what their limitations are. So the limitation of a large language model is, as we defined it before, a large language model is a specialized AI trained on vast text data. Now, that was a finite time. So it is trained on a large corpus of language, and then that's what it learns from, and it recognizes patterns from. So you could be using one of these language models, and you could ask it a question, and it could say, for instance, that it doesn't know based upon its last cutoff from training, or in many cases, it might show you a little note that says it's searching the web. Now, Claude, at the time I'm filming this, cannot search the web. So it's the most likely to say, I don't know the answer to that. Grok can search, Gemini can search, ChatGPT can search. And so if they don't know the information, they're going to go looking for it. But you want to understand how they're going to go looking for it. ChatGPT is going to conduct search through Bing. Gemini will conduct search through Google, which I would probably prefer, honestly. Claude cannot conduct research. Grok will conduct research through two fronts. It will do tweets, or X, whatever they call them now. It'll be tweets, and it will also analyze its own web search. Actually, X has built its own web search. It doesn't rely on Google or Bing or anything, which is pretty interesting. So understanding, well, hey, if I'm doing like ideation or brainstorms, and the topic that I'm focusing on requires the absolute most real-time information, only Grok is connected to a social feed that contains tweets of the most happening things. Now, am I suggesting that everything people post on X is real? No. So use common sense in terms of trying to figure out, is this factual, accurate information? Because sometimes it's just a matter of, I just want to know what the conversation is. I'm not endorsing or condoning that it's accurate or inaccurate. I just want to know what people are talking about so I can give commentary and maybe give accurate commentary on the topics of the day. Last modality is creation and generation, which is where we're going to spend a lot of our time in this program, AI Marketing Academy. It's about how can you use AI to create stuff, to make stuff, to write stuff, emails, social media posts, SEO, copy, all that kind of fun stuff. It's about creation and generation, hence generative AI. Now, there was an earlier term I introduced back a few sessions ago called fine tuning, which is customizing a pre-trained AI with specific data to ensure its peak performance or its performance for certain tasks. And I made this example of iPhones where I talked about, hey, the iPhone was really like revolutionary in the sense that when smartphones came out and they revealed app stores, they made way for the possibility of apps like Uber, apps like Pinterest, apps like Spotify. Those apps would not have existed had it not been for the structure, the device of the iPhone or Samsung or so forth. I think it's wise to consider large language models in a similar sense. There are only so many smartphone providers that have app stores, and then there's all these apps. The apps can be incredible. Like think about Uber or Spotify. They're ginormous. They're incredible in terms of their size and scale, but they wouldn't exist if it wasn't for the hardware, the device of that smartphone to provide them with the platform that they could build upon. That's their foundation, if you will. You're going to start to think about large language models like that. So OpenAI, which is ChatGPT, Claude, which is by Anthropic, Gemini by Google, Meta AI, which you might have heard of Llama. That's the model inside of Meta AI that a lot of people utilize. And then, of course, Grok. These are our big 5 large language models. There are a couple of others that we're not going to get into today. But you're going to realize, like, wait a minute, every one of those has major money behind it. Why? Because it takes extensive resources to build them in the same way that not everybody goes to build a smartphone because it takes extensive capital and resources to do it, but it provides an ecosystem where all the apps were able to be made. And in the same way, these large language models that have been developed, what other entrepreneurs can do is they can use an API to connect to those large language models and then layer on top of them with fine-tuned information. So they take a pre-trained AI model. So like a ChatGPT is a generative pre-trained transformer. It's what was it trained on? A large corpus of information and language and text, right? That finite amount of data. It takes that. Imagine that as the iPhone, if you will, and then it layers more specific data to, or it tailors it in a specific way to improve its ability to write. Now, some of our more popular tools that I want to bring to mind to you are like Jasper. You might have heard of that. WriteSonic, Anyword, Writer, Phrase, Quillbot, Copy AI, Writer, Grammarly, Hyperwrite, Line, Ink Editor. This is not even a full list. There are so many of these generative writing focused types of, I'll call them apps, if you will, and they are built on top of these large language models. Now, in some cases, you might think that, wow, I like that Jasper, for instance, is specifically fine-tuned for marketing copy. But what you want to consider is this. It's almost like, here's the picture of think about fine-tuning. Fine-tuning is like taking a Corvette engine and putting it inside a lawnmower or an airplane. It's still a Corvette engine, but it's recalibrated for that specific job, the lawnmower or the airplane. And the catch is you don't know what data the developers used, how they weighted it, or what additional instructions they added. So you're trusting their choices to meet your needs in terms of what you're looking for that to do. And remember, large language models like ChatGPT, Claude, all those already have come preloaded with extensive training and a wide range of best practices, including marketing. And so you have to ask the question, do I need any kind of fine tuning? So my encouragement to you is you can say, I do or I don't. I can personally tell you, I don't use most of these tools. I mean, Grammarly is just correcting grammar. If it's a Chrome extension, fine. I don't really use these tools, but some folks love them. And so if you want to check them out, do their free trials, knock yourself out. But just be aware that just because there's all these tools doesn't mean they are their own large language models. They are thought of more as apps layered on top of large language models. And I think if you can have a deep understanding of that structure, kind of the iPhone and then the apps, the large language model and then the apps, it's going to make it so much easier not to feel massively overwhelmed by all the new AIs cropping up here, there, and everywhere, because it's literally bursting at the seams because of the innovation of these large language models. Now, another term to be aware of is deep search, which is an internet search method using generative AI to understand queries or questions that you might formerly have Googled and to deliver more relevant, detailed results. When you think about online search, as it has been traditionally, it's kind of inefficient. I do a search on Google, it scours the web, and then it displays a bunch of links in order of what it believes are the most relevant links for me. I click one and shoot, it doesn't have what I'm looking for. I go back, I click the next one, and it's kind of like a scavenger hunt of trying to find the answers to my question. Now, yes, Google's had their snippets and things of that effect because they're aware of the inefficiency of it, but those snippets can't compare to the power of generative AI. Generative AI to be able to understand more context of what my search is and synthesize the answer I'm looking for right there on the spot. So some of your big generative search engines are GPT search, which is powered through ChatGPT. So remember, Microsoft is their big investor. So they've got a partnership with Bing. So a lot of their search functionality is this marriage between ChatGPT, the large language model, which is really good at understanding language and context and questions, powered with Bing search. And so that's the mechanism they use for GPT search to be able to figure out things it doesn't necessarily know based upon its training cutoff dates. Another big one is the AI overview. This is on Google search. You've probably seen that AI overview on the top of Google. And that's now appearing in about 47% of Google searches are those AI overviews. And that AI overview is powered by Gemini, which is their large language model. So Google is not going to fall behind per se. If anything, they might be leading the pack because they have it built in. What we'll have to watch for is, well, how does this start to mess with paid ads and search ads, and how do they make money? And we'll figure all that out as we go along. One that most people are talking about, or arguably the most, is Perplexity. So Perplexity is a search engine, but it's a generative search engine, and it has its own index. So ChatGPT, it relies upon Bing, Microsoft. AI Overview is, of course, Google. Perplexity has its own search engine that it searches the web and it brings back that data, and then it allows you to generatively search. But what's interesting about Perplexity is it's actually a fine-tuned model. So you can use whatever large language model you want. You can use OpenAI, you can use Gemini, you can use Claude, because it has APIs for those to be there. So what they really are in terms of a product is an actual search engine, and they're built on top of one of these large language models. And then last is Copilot. And Copilot is built into Bing. It is Microsoft's functionality. And of course, what you have to figure out is, like, these are kind of like inverse. Chat GPT search is powered by Bing, and Copilot is powered by OpenAI. So it's kind of like, in a way, the same thing, if you will. And again, we're seeing more and more generative search because it is that much more efficient. Generative search is efficient. Now, moving on, our second little section here is intelligent images. We'll talk about a handful of different tools for the job in terms of AI, beginning with AIs that generatively create, they literally make images. I type in a text prompt and then poof, it can create artwork, it can create icons, it can create images that look photorealistic. And the biggies are Firefly, which is by Adobe. I use Firefly a lot. It's probably my pick, would be Adobe Firefly for generating in terms of realistic images. It's an easy to use interface. They give you a lot for a free account. And it's Adobe, and they've already gone through all the commercial licensing, so you can use it for commercial stuff. Just read their terms and make sure you feel comfortable. I like Firefly a lot. And it's built into all of Adobe's products as well. So you can go to firefly.adobe.com and access it right there. Again, that link is firefly.adobe.com, or you can just use it inside of Photoshop or Adobe Express or their different Adobe apps in their Creative Cloud. The next one is Dolly. Dolly is the name of the model inside of ChatGPT. The way you access Dolly is in ChatGPT. I could have a chat about whatever the heck I want, and then I could just say, hey, make an image of a kitty cat that's ice skating on clouds or something totally random. And it will infer, because again, it's a large language model. So the GPT-4o model will infer that I'm looking for an image, and then it will tap on the shoulder Dolly, the generative AI that creates the images, and then poof, it will make me the image that I want. So Dolly is incredibly useful, easy to access. I sometimes find that they're not the greatest at making realistic looking images. But if you want like futuristic or artwork or sketches, it's really good at that. But the realistic ones, not so much. You can do your own shopping and decide what you like. This comes included if you're a ChatGPT Plus user or not. They've got free versions too. Midjourney is super popular. It makes beautiful images, but the interface is clunky. So I'm not a huge fan of Midjourney. And then Imagen is the AI model within Google. So the way you can access Imagen is there's two ways to use the Imagen. You can actually be inside of Gemini. So Gemini is the large language model. So it's kind of like in the same way you can access Dolly by being inside of ChatGPT, you can access Imagen, or however you want to say that, when you're inside of Gemini, which is Google's generative AI, their large language model, or you could actually use what's called Image FX, the letters FX, which is also another Google way of accessing just making images. So there's two ways to access this model, Imagen 3. All right, moving on. There are a bunch of other these are worthy of mention types of generative AIs for creating images and so forth and graphics. So Adobe Firefly, OpenAI Dolly via ChatGPT, Midjourney, we hit those. Canva just purchased Leonardo AI, which is an image generator, really impressive, built into Canva now. Gemini Imagen, you can access it through Google, through Gemini or through ImageFX. I talked about that one already. Stable Diffusion is super popular. Probably the easiest way to access that model is through a tool called Dream Studio. I don't really use Stable Diffusion often, but some people swear by it. This is about you picking your selection of tools. Grok uses a model called Aurora. So if you use Grok built into it in the same way that Imagen is built into Gemini and Dolly is built into ChatGPT, within Grok is Aurora, and they do a really remarkable job of image creation. Meta AI has Emu built into it, and then Runway ML is its own platform that does some really great image creation. Now, Runway is probably, in my opinion, better at video creation, but they're worthy of note in terms of image creation as well. You're not going to get very far though without a paid account. It's like $15-ish per month. In terms of graphic design, I have 3 recommendations. You should make your pick between Canva, Adobe Express, or Microsoft Designer. Now, this is about giving you exposure to what kind of design suites exist. Now, you're like, well, wait a minute. Adobe Express isn't AI. Canva isn't AI. You're right. They're actually just graphic design suites. They're powerhouse platforms for all things graphic design, within which are lots of different AI functions. Now, my pick is Canva because they're making really smart acquisitions, the purchase of Leonardo AI. They have a great partnership with Runway. So for video generation, they're doing a lot of really smart relationships with AIs that they don't have the ability to service. And then they're fine tuning their own functionality. Canva's crushing it. Adobe Express is crushing it. Microsoft Designer is crushing it. All 3 of these are worthy of you checking out. At least create free accounts and then decide in terms of graphic design needs, which might be presentations or social media posts and things of that effect. Which of these 3 do you like best? So far, we're talking about like large language models, generative search engines. We're talking about image generation. What are your favorite image generators? And now I'm getting into what are your favorite graphic design AI-enabled platforms. And one more note on images. This is a term I call image magic. You're going to find when you use a lot of these types of tools, Canva, Express, Designer, you're going to find that some of the popular AI-based functionality that's within them is background removal of images, erasing objects, like there's a pair of shoes and you want to just paintbrush it and then poof, it disappears. And then what the AI will do is generatively predict what would have been behind that pair of shoes in the image had it not been there the whole time. Object replace. So not maybe I want to take the shoes and make it, I don't know, a little flower pot. And you can do that with object replace. Upscaling, where I can take maybe a pixely, low res, grainy image and make it better. This is still, the technology is okay on this. It's still developing. There's one tool called Canvas Expand where maybe I've got a square image and I want to imagine what if that was a widescreen image, and it will imagine what would have been on the left and right had the photo been taken that way originally. This is sometimes good. Sometimes I don't like what it generates, but it's a common feature you're going to find. And then one more is what's called style transfer, where if you're doing a graphic design in Canva, maybe it's a square aspect ratio and you want to automatically make this, well, what does it look like if it's wide and skinny or tall and skinny, or what if it's 8.5 by 11? And so style transfer will allow you to quickly and easily have an AI basically predict what this design should look like in a different ratio, like aspect ratio. What should it look like in a square versus a portrait versus a vertical format? It just helps you design faster and smarter. So again, these are just some of the most common AI tools or functions related to graphic design you're going to find within some of these suites, Canva, Adobe Express, Designer. So go kick the tires, see what you think about all of those, and then also be aware of a few additional tools. So designs.ai, you might want to check them out. They are a full-blown design studio. I just want you to be aware of them in case you like them. Looka is another tool that specializes in icons and logos. You're like, but Jason, I thought you said Dolly or Grok or any of those could do icons and logos. Yeah, they can. They can. Claude can do them too. But Looka specializes in that. It's a fine-tuned app, if you will. Let's Enhance for image upscaling, remove.bg for background removal. They do a really good job. I don't know why you would need them if you're using Canva or Adobe Express, but there they are and they're free. Beautiful.ai specializes in making PowerPoints or slide presentations. They're worthy of looking at. And then Wizard with a U does design mock-ups. They'll give you mock-ups, if you will, wireframes and things of that effect. So some other tools that you might want to kick the tires on and look into. And I want you to imagine, what are the use cases for all these tools? Well, postcards, presentations, flyers, and leaflets. logos and icons, brochures, PDFs and ebooks, social media posts, newsletters, reports, maybe making signage for actually putting signs in the yard and things of that effect. There are lots of needs related to graphic design in your marketing mix. All right, moving on. Intelligent sounds. Let's dive into these tools for a little bit. I've got 6 that I want to talk through, and you're going to have all my slides, of course, as a resource. The first feature is voice cloning, whereby AIs like 11 Labs or Murph or Speechify can replicate voices for personalized messaging and automated voiceovers. You can literally clone your own voice. You should check out these tools. Of course, read all the fine print and make sure you're comfortable with the terms of these companies. Number 2 is listening AIs. They generate on-demand audio content like custom-made podcasts. So Notebook LM, 11 Labs Reader, and GenFM. Notebook LM and GenFM do the same thing. You can feed in sources like here's 6 YouTube video links, here's a document, here's a PDF. I want you to create a podcast as if it was based on that material. And so it will generally create spoken podcasts that you can listen to that are specific to the contents that you provide as sources. Whereas 11 Labs Reader is a mobile app where you can just have it read any article to you. So if you don't have time to read articles, like, I don't know, some article you want to read, but it's long, you can just copy and paste the link, open it in 11 Labs Reader, and it will have an AI, whatever voice you want. You could have like whatever accent you prefer to listen to, read you the news effectively. Number 3 is audio repair. Tools like Auto, which is not a mobile app. It is a website, or Crisp, or Veed, or Podcastle are worth checking out. They can improve sound quality by removing noises or fixing imperfections. So if there's crying babies, barking dogs, wind noise, if there's echo or reverb in the room or a hum, they're really remarkable at isolating your voice versus those sounds and then just removing those sounds instantaneously. Number 4 is voice chat. These are AIs like ChatGPT Advanced Voice Mode. That's what AVM stands for. Gemini Live, it's only in their app. They facilitate real-time voice conversations with language models. So if you're using ChatGPT, you might see a little button that looks like a sound waveform. If you tap it, you're turning on Advanced Voice Mode where you're effectively having a conversation back and forth with ChatGPT. It talks, you talk, and you're like talking to it like it's a human. You can do the same with Gemini, but only in our mobile app. And it's called Gemini Live, whereas ChatGPT has that across all their different platforms, whether it's mobile, website, a desktop. You can use that functionality for ChatGPT. Gemini, not yet, but it's a actual conversation with an AI. Another voice-related AI is Quality Boost. Tools like Adobe Podcast Enhance Speech, that is a mouthful. CapCut, Descript, they enhance audio clarity, tone, and overall recording quality. So maybe your audio sounds a little thin, or like you recorded it on your phone without using a microphone or something like that. And you want to make it sound like you have a pro grade mic. Well, you can use one of these tools to make it sound like a pro grade mic. They will remove background noise, but that's not what they specialize in. These tools up here specialize in background removal. These ones here just make it sound beefier and better. And then one last one is what's called TTS, text to script, or text to sound, and sound to text. So text to sound, sound to text. What these do is they convert text to speech or sound for dictation, or speech to text for transcription. And I'm really struggling with saying that. That's a tongue twister. In other words, we're talking about dictation. So like Siri, you can dictate things to it, and it will half the time mishear you, and it will accidentally text somebody something horrible that you would never have said or typed because it misheard the wrong word. I'm sure it's happened to you. It's happened to me many times over. Tools like ChatGPT, for instance, they are almost flawless in dictation. So that is the speech to text for dictation. You should also be aware of tools like Otter AI. So theoretically, with the proper consent and permission, it could record a meeting and then give you the full transcription, or large language model dictation features. So again, ChatGPT, Gemini, they have dictation features in them. Sadly, at the time of this recording, Claude does not have a dictation feature. Dictation is really just, to me, about convenience. I like to be able to have that flow of thought where I'm talking to it to shape what I want to do versus just having to type it up perfectly. That's just me. Okay, one more section, intelligent videos. We'll explore a bunch of generative AI video tools, beginning first with tools that do text to video. These are actual AI models that I do a text prompt and it generates a video for me. Tools like, for example, Sora by OpenAI. Veo is another super popular one. So Veo is by Google, and then Runway is another popular one. These are 3 of the big ones. So Sora is not part of you can use let me say that differently. If you have a ChatGPT Plus subscription, you get some access to Sora. Where Dolly is built into ChatGPT, Sora is a standalone platform. It's its own website, if you will. Now you can link out to it from ChatGPT, but it's a different platform. Sora is these are all three, in my opinion, about equally matched in terms of creating video. Now, use cases for this would be like maybe creating B-roll for social media videos or things like that. You want to be wary of. You don't want to create video for a listing video and accidentally engage in false advertising because you created a video of this lake around a property that actually isn't there at all. So when you're selling property, for all my real estate folks, you want to make sure you don't false advertise the thing you're selling with B-roll. But I would look at Sora, VO, again, that's part of Google. So I would look at that. You can access it within Gemini. Or you can also go to Video FX. So they have Image FX for Imagen, and they have Video FX for VO. And then Runway is its own platform. It's called Runway ML, and they have their models called the Gen 3 Alpha model, and it's remarkable. So these are my top three. Here's a few additional ones. So OpenAI Sora, Google VO2 is the current model. Again, it can be accessed through VideoFX. The next one is Runway ML. And then Pika Art 2.0, worthy of mention. Luma Labs AI through Dream, they have one called Dream Machine, worthy of mention. And then NVIDIA AI, another worthy of mention. When you're thinking about text to video creations, they're going to make video. These six are remarkable at it right there. All right, moving on. What can you do in terms of editing videos? Well, these are probably the 12 most popular AI-based functions for editing videos. Removing backgrounds, erasing objects, vertical video clips, image upscaling. You see them all here. I'm not going to read them all to you. They're on the screen. You're going to get all my slides, of course. The tools that you should check out that perform these functions include CapCut, Descript, and Video AI. So InVideo there was one of the tools that was a generative AI for generating footage, but it also has some other features for editing and working with. It's a full tool for video. Captions AI, BigView, Filmora, V.io, Submagic, Runway ML. So you're seeing some familiar names here. Now I made you a cheat sheet in terms of, at the time of this filming, which tools do which jobs. So you can make your choice, because I am not suggesting you have to use all 9 of these tools. I figure you're going to pick 2 or 3 that you're going to kind of work between. And so if you look here at all the different functions, eye contact correction, dynamic subtitles, facial retouching to make your face brighter or remove wrinkles and stuff like that, if you want to do that. Best takes, and this is like best takes and scenes. It can literally figure out your best takes and automatically edit out bad takes. These functions are insane. This is the year where you're going to start having some real streamlining of your video editing process to massively accelerate what you're doing video-wise. Now, one more note about video is a term called deepfakes, which are generative video AI replications or replicates of a person's likeness, their voice, and their mannerisms to create realistic synthetic video avatars. In other words, we're talking about deepfaking you, cloning you, and the popular tools for this. And of course, make sure you read their terms. Make sure you feel comfortable doing this. But you can provide a sample of yourself, and tools like HeyGen or GAN or Synthesia will literally replicate you. And you can feed it a script, copy paste the words, and it will read it like it's you. Almost the way a musician reads music, these AIs will read your punctuation. And so where 11 Labs, I introduced that earlier, they do a great voice synthesis. These tools do voice and video. However, I'm going to make the argument that 11 Labs has the best voice replication. But what's nice is you can actually use a third-party integration and connect your 11 Labs directly to HeyGen. So these tools, they're absolutely incredible. Let me go back. Whoops, I clicked the wrong button. They're absolutely incredible. And you're seeing the videos on the screen right now. I mean, these are not real people. They're fake people. So GAN AI and HeyGen and Synthesia, they all have different use cases. You can just generatively make a video of yourself talking, or you can use them for like lead follow-ups, where you can just do name replacement, record one video, and then it will just sub out. Maybe their name is Jane, maybe it's Jared, maybe it's Jessica, and it will sub out their name, and it will clone and move your mouth differently to say the right names at the right time, and then connect it out with your CRM. So the possibilities are really, really remarkable. But again, make sure you feel comfortable with the tools and in terms of what they're doing. This is one more aspect of where video and AI are just having this massive overlap. It's intelligent words, intelligent images, intelligent sounds, intelligent videos. And it begs one question, and this is the wrap up of our entire AI Marketing Essentials course here. What's in your AI tech stack? What's in your tech stack? Go make your selections. And I can't wait to see you in class for AI Marketing Academy and our upcoming lectures and labs. Now that you're a know-it-all with AI and you're ready to rock it with all these different marketing tactics and strategies that are part of your AI Marketing Academy membership. Thank you so much.
Oh, wow. Okay, guys. That's a lot. So let me just turn my camera on here real quick. Let me kill the screen share for just a second. Okay, so I mean, again, we're learning together. I'm a novice. Tell you that for sure. I think those last two videos I need to play back multiple times. Um, I was doing screenshots, and then I realized at the end, Jason's like, the slide deck is available. So I'm going to find that deck, all those slides he had. I'll upload that by the way, just in case some of you guys came in late, let me do a screen share here again. So this is my plan. Okay, this is the link tree where you guys probably came onto. I sent you the link tree that went to the regular Coldwell Banker Town and Country. That link tree took you here, and I'm going to kind of start using the 95.5 business planning link tree. This was the Zoom that you clicked on that got us to where we are right now. So I'm going to create just a section, an AIM marketing or AI marketing section, and in here I'll put the video session link to the YouTube, and then I'll put Jason's slide deck. And if you be patient with me, I'll try to get that all done before it'll be the end of the day, but the end of the day might be like 6 or 7 or 8 o'clock tonight. So I'll get that done. And a lot of moving parts. Okay. Anybody want to debrief on this, or are we just exhausted and want to go about our day?
Certainly a
So
lot
is
to
that
take
just the,
in.
I'm
Oh,
sorry.
go ahead, Misty.
I'm so sorry. No, I was just gonna say, is that like the first section? It kind of, he was talking about is that like other classes? I was kind of confused by what.
Yeah, let me go back to the screen share and let me summarize again. And by the way, like I've said multiple times, we're learning together. So if somebody sees this a little differently than what I just said, then let me know. Okay, so this is basically the portal that they have. The instructions basically are to go to the bottom first to this essentials. So there's 7 videos here. This is what we just watched. So this is kind of your, introduction, 101 basics to AI. So we watched those 7 videos, which, the first few are pretty basic. At least they were for me. The last 2 are kind of where we are. Then this is the stuff, and if I go to all, these are the courses that he's basically built out on video avatar seller facts. And then what they have these, apparently everything's in 2 pieces. They have the lecture, which is him doing the video. And then they've got this lab section, which is kind of like the to-dos. For example, if you didn't quite understand this, and I just started to understand it, I've played around with this a little bit, but I realized very quickly that I'm not prompting the AI well enough. I'm asking it to, and he even said this in his talk today. If you give it a real basic prompt, you get crap and it fills in the blanks. So the prompts are very, very important. You want to be very specific. As a matter of fact, he even said in one of his little slides here this afternoon, once you give it your prompts, maybe ask it before you start analyzing, did I give you enough information, kind of a thing? Did you have enough? And then it'll come back and say, well, you didn't tell me about the neighborhood you were looking at, or whatever it happens to be. So it sounds like pretty basic stuff. The more, garbage in, garbage out. If you don't give it very much good stuff, you're going to get stuff out you're not going to like. So what I believe is in a lot of these labs, for example, it will give you the prompt. So if you like what you're seeing, if you like what Jason's showing you, he'll give you a prompt. The example that he used last week is he uploaded some market data for Franklin, Tennessee. And then he said, if you like this, here's the prompt. It was a bunch of stuff. It was like paragraphs of stuff. And if I understood it correctly, you could take his prompt, load it into either ChatGPT or one of these 24 separate applications, which again, I'm learning. And then you could replace Franklin, Tennessee with Riverside, California. And then in theory, all of that prompting that Jason and his team have fine-tuned, it's already done. Okay. So, but anyway, so the rest of it, Misty, is the lecture and then the lab, and then there's just a whole bunch of them, answering engine optimization, and then the lab, generating AI podcasting, and then the lab, and a variety of stuff. Keep in mind, this is fairly new. It only looks like he has one, two, well, actually, this is upcoming. This is coming in, I think, next week or the week after. So there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Looks like there's only been 4 sessions so far. This is a pretty new thing that he's created. So there's only 4 labs and 4 lectures that he's done so far, and these are the topics. And then the other part, Misty, which I haven't even looked at, is basically these resources. So I'm not going to click into these right now, but hey, I need help with prompts. I'm assuming if I click into this, it's going to give me some prompts. I want, like, this is where I'm starting, to be honest with you. Something tells me this is not going to take 20 minutes. I have a feeling it's going to take days for me to actually figure this out. But I'm hoping once I figured it out, then it's going to take, much less time. So I'm going to start with video, and I'm going to play around with that. So here's all of his resources section, which is, anyway, you can see this stuff. So we'll play around with this, but a lot of moving parts, a lot. Quite honestly, I'm more convinced than ever that this is not only a 95.5 thing, this is a 99.1, because even though this is bitching, do it at the risk of insulting some people who are on this Zoom or frankly going to watch the video, 1 or 2% of you guys are actually going to do this, because this is going to take some effort. Going to take some effort, a lot.
There's 6 or 7 people on this Zoom call.
Yep, I got
Just to
it.
give you
We
an
had
idea.
10. We had 10 at the most. So by the way, let's say it's 10. That's 95.5 right there. That's 5%. That's 5% of our overall agents. And if I'll just my takeaway is this is, if I thought it was going to be easy, this ain't going to be easy. It might make things easier once we get going, but this ain't easy, man. So anyway, what's up, Lee?
I mean, just a little off topic, but it's kind of what me and Drew had talked about yesterday. You're going to get the tech companies, or you're going to get somebody to figure this out. And then you go create that avatar and you just multiply it in every single market. And you just start collecting all these seller leads, and then you refer them out to the local agents that's there. Somebody's going to be doing this, and they're going to take over.
That's right.
So
I
if we're not at least dipping our toe in the water or exposing ourselves in some level, I mean,
Yep.
how quickly we will fall behind the curve, I think, is what has motivated me to just completely dive in all things
Yep.
AI moving forward. I don't care if you
Agree.
can write your own Instagram, little blurb. Use AI anyway, just
Yeah.
so you can get used to it, just to be a practitioner.
Yep.
We got to dive in.
Yep. And yeah, I keep saying this over and over, but you guys know I don't know, 1,000 hours of video content. I already have. So I'm excited to see what I can do with that to improve upon it. But just for argument's sake, Mercedes, for example, I don't believe Mercedes. I've seen you, and if you've done this, I apologize, but I don't think I've seen you do a lot of video content. Maybe you're nervous,
No,
maybe.
that's my goal. I know. I gotta just get out of
Okay,
yes.
let's
That's
use
like
that.
literally my goal.
Well, but so to use you as an example, and by the way, you're not alone. I mean, Wilson, by the way, is the master of social media. I mean, that guy does more like real live video than probably anybody I know. But there's a lot of agents that apply this too. So if you're super scared and super nervous, Mercedes, you upload some of your voice, you upload some videos, you create some content, you load it into one of those apps, whatever they are. And the next thing you know, you're a professional on-air spokesperson, saying things perfectly. And that's where, quite honestly, I really think a lot of people who embrace this, that have been fearful of that media, can all of a sudden become instant rock stars. The interesting part, and by the way, Mercedes, I think you'll do just fine with this, since I use you as an example. Drake and I were talking about this, and Drew were like, okay, well, this is great. Now, what actually happens when the consumer actually calls you? if the real Mercedes is not as good as the AI Mercedes, well, then I think the whole thing kind of falls apart. So I think all of us behind the scenes have to realize that, we have to kind of back it up. I mean, if we're going to put out some stuff that's awesome, that's actually going to generate leads, well, when you actually talk to this client, you better be able to back up your avatar. But anyway, a lot of stuff, guys. So anyway, I'll get these videos up. I'm thinking, well, for those of you that are curious, I'll shoot out a text tomorrow that says, "Hey, the video is up." I might do it tonight, but hey, the video's up, the deck is up. And then frankly, if I have any success in my first venture is this, I'm going to take 2 or 3 or 4 market snapshots or last year's market forecast, try to upload it in, which is funny because the program that I was directed to was not on Jason's deck. So I got to go back and see which deck does he recommend for video creation. And I'm going to upload it into whichever one he uploaded because I don't even remember now. And I'm going to see what happens, so wish me luck. And if it turns out well, quite honestly, if it turns out well, you'll see it on Instagram and Facebook tonight. If you don't see anything on Instagram and Facebook tonight, then I failed. So. All right. So, all right, guys. I don't see anybody else unmuted. I don't see anything in chat. So anyway, we're in this together. Peace and love. We'll talk soon. All right. Later. Bye.